Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. We're gonna give it just a minute or two, just to wait for a couple participants to trickle on here. Okay. So give me about a minute before we start, if that's okay, everybody. For those who just joined, we're just going to give it maybe another 30 seconds or so before we start the webinar. All right, guys, thanks for joining. We'll get started. Welcome. My name is Nick Cabasis. I'm the Splicing Tapes Business Manager here at Adhesives Research, and I'm also joined by Bonnie Richter from our technical sales team. And saying that, I'm excited to speak with you today regarding how PSA technologies can improve not only your speed, but also the efficiencies of your automated fly-in splices. Now, I'm going to gear this primarily towards the value add process of flexible packaging, such as printing, laminating, extrusion, as well as coatings. So converting processes overall, really. But first, I'd like to thank everyone that took the time out of their day to join today, and we hope that you find that this webinar is informative. So moving on to the next slide, I do have kind of a few housekeeping items to go over quickly. So I'll run through those. I'll provide a brief overview on flexible packaging, as well as adhesives research and why we feel that this content is really relevant today. And we'll also be presenting a quick technical review on our key splicing products, and how they can be used in your fly-in splice applications. We'll also end the Q&A. We'll also end with a Q&A, sorry about that, which will be directed towards myself, as well as Bonnie Richter that I mentioned previously. At any point along the webinar, please feel free to submit your questions. You can do that now or while listening in. We're going to collect those, and then we'll answer those at the end. Moving on to the next slide, here's a couple of the housekeeping ideas here. In an effort for us to provide the most, effective delivery, we are and will be in a listen and view only mode. So as previously mentioned, we'll have the Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and you'll have options to send questions through the system as well as anonymously if you prefer that method. If we're not able to answer your questions live, we'll follow up afterwards. The presentation is also being recorded, so you can access it later through a link that we're going to send. And last but not least, please raise your guys' hands if you need any further assistance. We do have a few members of the adhesives research team online today that would be happy to help you. So as we move on to the next slide, I'd like to ask really all of the attendees that are here today a couple basic questions. Really, are you experiencing any splice failures today? Do you have any trouble bonding to substrates such as films, whether they be BOPP, LDPE, PET, poly, wax-coated papers, clay coatings, anything along those lines? If you're trying to increase your speeds, or if you're just simply slowing down your machines in order to make successful slices, if you answered yes, to any of those questions, then please hang around because this webinar should appeal to you. But today, I'm going to first provide a brief overview of the flexible packaging market, which is next. Then I'll outline adhesives research and how we fit into the market. So again, if you're printing flexographic or rotogravure, if you're laminating, coating, or doing really any roll-to-roll process, please hang around and listen and watch. Because like I said, at the end of this, we're actually going to provide a small case study or application, if you will, of how adhesives research really solved a particular customer's splice problem and then some. So with that said, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is a brief overview of flexible packaging market. So like I said, the purpose of this webinar is to discuss how high performance pressure sensitive adhesives, PSAs, can improve the throughput and efficiencies of automated splicing. However, I think it's also important to provide a little, background on the industry in order to gain context on how vast and important this market truly is, because it is a growing market here in the US as well as globally. And for that reason, we feel like it's important for us to bring this webinar to you today. So if I talk about flexible packaging and the market growth, I was kind of thinking of a way to bring to you a measure that almost everyone would be able to relate to. So I thought a good measure to kind of go by would be GDP, or gross domestic product. Now, in the United States, GDP is expected to grow by approximately 2% from now until the end of 2022. So 2%, remember that data point. If we were to look at the North American flexible packaging market, which I feel in this case is okay to do since the majority of the attendees that we have today do have business across borders, I would say that the North American flexible packaging market is actually valued at approximately $40 billion today, with a projection of reaching $48 billion by the end of 2026, which is pretty impressive given this segment, if you will. And the fact that it's growing at a continuous annual growth rate of 3.16 is obviously higher than what the GDP rate is now. So if we were to look at flexible packaging on let's say a global scale, that value roughly is $293 billion by the end of 2022, with a continuous annual growth rate of 4.7%. So with that said, flexible packaging, whether you look at it on a North American perspective or a global perspective, it's growing at 1.5 or even 2 times the GDP rate. So it's continuous growth in a growing market. And, I don't know about yourselves, but I would ask, what are some of the drivers in this space? So I took the liberty of looking up some of those drivers. And I came with 3 kind of important ones that I kind of highlighted, if you will. One being that traditional rigid packaging solutions are being substituted for flexible packaging. So the growing market demand for customer-friendly packages and heightened product protection is expected to continue to boost flexible packaging as a viable and cost-effective solution. Okay. 2, e-commerce, digital printing, and sustainability are driving market development and growth. So that means customers are increasingly becoming more eager to pay extra for certain product attributes boosted by flexible packaging. And third, flexible packaging is mainly used for food, which contributes to more than 60% of the total market. And according to the Flexible Packaging Association, brand owners are taking on films, pouches, and even bags as go-to packaging solutions. So I felt it was necessary to provide a little bit of background on how large this market is. But with that said, the segment of the business that adds the most, let's say, significant value to flexible materials is usually you. Basically, everyone that has joined today is a part of that converting process in some way, shape, or form, I assume. So again, I'd like to take the time to thank everyone who took the time to join the webinar today. And as I move on to the next slide, I was going to describe a little bit about how adhesives research really fits in here. So in this section, I'll provide you with a little bit of background on adhesives research, as well as a brief overview of our product line before Bonnie gets into the case study or application-based portion of the webinar. So if you guys can bear with me for, say, I don't know, 2 or 3 more minutes to give a little bit of brief overview on adhesives research, we'll get into the application-based part of it, which you'll most likely have the most interest in. But back where I left off, where does adhesives research fit in? Well, you could answer that by really asking who our customers are, right? What are our capabilities? And the way that I would answer that would be the fact that adhesives research has been in business for almost 60 years, and we've been able to continually invest in expanding our capabilities to be able to quickly respond to new and challenging demands is probably one of the first things that I would say. I would also go on to say that while not everything is possible today, we do pride ourselves with working with industry leaders like the attendees for today, and then helping us set the direction of the market. So when you choose a partner such as adhesives research, you're not only going to receive a performance adhesive that'll meet your technical requirements, but you'll also have access to decades of experience from adhesives research. We believe that this experience has placed us in an ideal position to help you provide adhesive products that are most suited to your immediate and both long-term needs. And that's because we offer really standard products that are essentially off the shelf, as well as fast and customizable adhesive products. So in saying that, adhesives research does have a range of pressure-sensitive adhesives that can serve in a variety of applications. The 2 most important product lines are, 1, those that are geared towards the pulp and paper market, which would be our repulpable technology, as well as 2, our high-performance product line that is geared towards the flexible packaging industry. This is the line that we're going to discuss today by way of investigating a particular application success that we recently achieved and is relevant for today. However, before we get started on that, and I move you over to Bonnie, I would like to talk a little bit about the high performance product line. It does include a variety of both single and double-sided adhesives. In addition to that, we also provide transfer adhesives, paper patches, flying splice tabs, as well as silicone and Teflon tapes. Our products are really going to range in a variety of ways. So it's going to range in temperature resistance, color, caliper, speed, and bond strength, in which regard to initial tack and shear. But we've also diversified our backings, or often referred to as carriers or liners, of our adhesives in order to increase the applications in which these adhesives can be used in. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I'm referring to the tape's construction in this case, We range our products from tissues to papers to polyesters to no carrier at all in an unsupported transfer adhesive. So for a small example, paper carriers eliminate the use of knives or scissors within your plant that create safety concerns, while a PET backing, such as paired with an acrylic adhesive, would then improve your temperature resistance. So these are simple items to consider when you're selecting the correct product for your application. So why are we going to focus on our high performance splicing product line today? Well, as I mentioned before, because the industry continues to push the boundaries of speed while increasing the protection through barrier films and coatings. Now, AR continues to develop tapes with higher bond strengths, higher heat resistance, and other select performance attributes to meet those high slip films and really speed applications. So the remainder of this presentation, when I hand it over to Bonnie, is really going to focus on that part of the processes. You know, high speed applications, high efficiencies, high throughput, high heat processes, and like I said, high speed application. So if any of those things are within your plant, this is what you'll want to pay attention to in the next slide with Bonnie. So at this point, I'm going to turn you over to Bonnie. She'll go through a little bit of a technical review and a particular application-based problem here with a customer. And I'll circle back to you guys with a Q&A portion at the very end.
Thank you, Nick. So we're going to go into how pressure-sensitive adhesives can be used in flying splice applications. So going to our first slide here, let's take this time to discuss applications for flexoprinting at high speeds, both unwind and rewind core flying splice applications. For this example, we're going to talk about a customer who had clay-coated board running at the speeds around 1,500 feet per minute. The goals for this particular company was to achieve faster running speeds and less missed splices. They were missing around 10 to 15 splices every month, while they also were reducing their speed at the time of splicing to approximately 1,500 feet per minute. But the machine was capable of running 2,000 feet per minute. Also, in their cold environment, they were also having some issues with the tape bonding to their substrate. So their goal was to reduce the number of missed splices, increase their line speed at the time of the splice, which resulted in more throughput, reducing downtime and waste. Secondary goal would be reduce the amount of tape being used per splice and eliminating glue that was added either over the tape or beside the tape in the setup. Now, if you're familiar with glue, this isn't something the facilities want on site due to OSHA regulations on limits of hazardous materials due to its flammability, not to mention the added material and inventory costs. It's a mess for the operators to handle, as well as splashes on the finished product while the splice is in rotation. We work with customers and operators with a better bonding pressure-sensitive R-clad tape, and we revamp their splice setup to eliminate the glue. So to recap the case study, flexo printer, flying splice, low heat, but high speed bonding on a very difficult substrate in a cold weather environment. So our product recommendation or solution was our R-clad 0082. R-clad 0082 is a double face designed for high slip applications for high slip film or low surface energy substrates, and it bonds well in cold environments and on cold substrates. We were able to increase our speeds to around 19 to 2,000 feet per minute, with other customers achieving speeds over 3,000 feet per minute. So on the next slide, we've outlined here our R-clad 0082, which was developed for challenging low surface energy and high slip films. It's geared towards high-speed unwind and rewind splicers, proven track record at high speeds over 2,000 feet per minute, bonds well on cold substrates and in cold environments, blue color for splice identification, and hand tearable. Temperature resistant, it has the ability to withstand heat applications with short dwell times, so ideal with flexo printers, extruders, and laminators. A couple other unique characteristics of this product is its ability to wet out, especially on impact of a high slip film. It makes a clean, fast bond so that the automatic knife, when it cuts the web, it cuts a very short tail, which is very important at the core for a thin splice to minimize any imaging as the core builds. Some customers have also had success with the ArcLad 0082 removing cleanly from their cores, which allows them to reuse the cores. Of course, keep in mind, there's a variety of wax-coated cores out there, but it's worth trialing to determine if your plant could take advantage of this cost savings as well. Please allow me to also add that Adhesives Research has a wide selection of products that are geared towards the flexographic applications and other equipment. For this slide, we will focus on 0082, which is our preferred product for high slip film applications. But we have additional products that are both single-sided and double-sided, as well as high temperature resistant products for unwind fine splicing. For example, our 516 series, which is commonly referred to as the ugly tape. It comes in clear, red, black, and orange. This double-sided tape is very tacky with a heavy coat weight of adhesive, which is where it gets its name ugly. This high coat weight is ideal for porous materials like fiberglass, mat, and scrim, also in unwind and rewind applications. We also have our 8811 product. 8811 is a workhorse product that's widely used in the flexible packaging industry for a variety of applications and substrates. It's a firmer adhesive, slightly better temperature resistant, but also has excellent bond and shear properties. It's double face, white, hand tearable, and has a cleaner roll appearance, so it doesn't have that ugly roll exudation. It is easier handling for the operators, making it our highest selling product, followed closely by our ArcLad 0082. For a fine splice rewind application, depending on your splicer detector, any of our tapes can be applied as a spiral straight across the core or in bands at each end of the core set. In reference to the last bullet on this slide, any of our double phase products can be used with our ArcLad 9052 flying splice tabs for unwind applications. As discussed, we have a variety of high-tech flying splice tapes with ArcLad 0082 designed for high slip films. So if this sounds like your challenge, please contact us for a sample. So I'm going to move on to my last slide. So let's conclude the benefits and solutions provided in our customer example with 0082. We accomplished the customer's goals while capturing additional benefits, increased speeds by 400 feet per minute, improving them from 1,500 feet per minute to 1,900 to 2,000 feet per minute consistently. Take that times 3 presses, and that's a lot of added throughput. Reduce their downtime and waste of material due to missed splices. In fact, during our follow-up visit, they reported close to 100% splice success with a rare occurrence of a missed splice. We also accomplished their secondary goal, which was eliminating glue, which resulted several previously mentioned benefits. Again, increased efficiencies, increased throughput, reduced downtime, eliminated glue, with added benefits of reusing their cores. So to end where we started, ArcLad 0082 is allowing customers to max out their new press or equipment upgrades, and it's working consistently. It's a win-win situation when we can help customers achieve their specific goals and have an opportunity to assist them as they continue to improve and become more competitive. This concludes our case study, and we appreciate the time you spent with us here today on our webinar presentation. Now we'll move on to our Q&A section, which I'll turn over to Nick and our contact information.
All right, thank you, Bonnie. So to recap that a little bit, and the reason I want to recap it is I see in the attendees here, there are several attendees here in the printing industry that I actually recognize. That's funny. All right, so the biggest thing here, guys, is the 0082 product immediately provided increased speed. So, anybody that is in this industry would know that increasing someone from 1,500 to 1,900 feet per minute is a significant increase. In addition to that, I believe that the customer was missing, I forget, it was maybe 10 or 15 splices a month. And then that was across 3 separate printing machines. So with that said, that is a lot of efficiency and throughput gain if you were to ask me. And I'm sure that the majority of these attendees today would also agree with that. But those are the benefits that you see in this 0082 product that we specifically designed for high slit films. And as a result, it's actually turned out to be one of our highest selling products, like Bonnie mentioned. But with that said, Bonnie, I think you described that very well. And there are several questions here that I'd like to dig into. Actually, guys, let me get to them. So, all right. What is the max speed you have seen with your 0082 product? Okay, so Bonnie, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the highest speed I've seen is around 2,800 feet per minute, if I'm speaking right. Is that accurate?
Well, we do have a couple customers that actually have achieved up to 3,200, but those are very unique applications.
Okay. All right. So 2,800 to 32 feet per minute using the 0082 product, which, if you ask me, is pretty impressive. Another one that we have here. What if heat is an issue? Does adhesives research offer any higher heat products? So I'm not sure which product you would be basing that off of. So if we're talking about the 0082 product that's here in front of us, yes, we do have higher heat products than that. So for example, our 8811 adhesive is a hot melt adhesive that has a medium heat tolerance of probably, say, 150 degrees that reaches the actual adhesive, not the actual oven temperature, what the web actually experiences. In addition to that, we do have some other double-sided products, which would be 8314, which is an acrylic-based adhesive with a PET carrier, and it comes in a black, a red, and a clear. If you needed a single-sided version, that product also comes in a yellow, and that product would be SP92495Y. We see a lot of those two particular products, the 8811 and the 92495Y, being used in some hot cup production. So something like what would be similar to like a Starbucks cup, and that would require either an overlap or a butt splice, where heat can obviously become an issue. Bonnie, would you add anything to that? I feel like I covered that pretty well.
Oh yeah, I think you covered the two technologies.
Okay, so that one. All right, let's see what else we got here, guys. Can you elaborate on your 516 product and what was mentioned as a porous substrate. Okay, so yeah, so the best way that I can answer that would be to say a particular application, not customer, a particular application that we do sell into, which would be it's more of like a fiberglass mat, if you will, so a porous substrate. As Bonnie was mentioning, this product 516, or often referred to as ugly tape, is probably going to be my go-to product, along with our product 8811 that I actually also just mentioned. And the reason for those two products, the 516 has a huge sludge of adhesive on it. That's why it's called ugly tape. It's kind of like a rubbery, gooey adhesive that really can bite down into those porous substrates in order to make that bond. The other one is the 8811, which is a little bit more of a firmer adhesive, but the tack level is so high and the adhesive amount is very high as well, that it also has the ability to bite down into that substrate. Now, Bonnie, the only question that I might have here was, I know that we use that in roll-to-roll applications. Do customers also use that for core starting? I believe they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do, okay. Would you add anything to that, or am I good there?
No, but the only thing I'll mention is for some of the really stiff material like the fiberglass mat for cores, again, it goes back to the example that I cited on, if you have a really quick bond, the automatic knife cuts a very short tail. So it's very important, even in the thick materials, because if the tail is too long, it'll fold back. And then again, you're going to have that imaging or that bump at the core. And then as that core begins to build, you'll have some thickness built up there. So very important, it bonds not only quickly in the thin films, but also in this fiberglass mat, heavy board material as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm going to answer this last one here, guys. It's from an anonymous attendee here. We are currently using one of your competitive products. What is your process, or to put it better, what kind of support can you give in order to turn this over to your product? So I'm not sure what competitive product you're referring to. If we're referring to a competitive product that's a double-sided adhesive that's being geared towards the flexible packaging industry and high slip films, let's say, I would say that this 0082 product has been developed with the intention of increasing your performance, your speed, and your splicing capabilities. So with that said, you could use a reference of what Bonnie just mentioned. We've continuously been displacing competitive products with this particular 0082, along with some of our other products. Now, some of the support that we can give would be Bonnie or myself, in the fact that we actually will come to your facility and provide you with the technical support that you would need. Not only would we have experience in what you're currently doing, most likely, but we would also have experience from other facilities that we have been within. Bonnie and I and the rest of the team actually do travel, well, take that back. We used to travel almost, let's say, bi-weekly to not only our current customers, but our other, new customers, if you will. And we provided them with our feedback, or what our, technical expertise has given us by traveling and seeing so many different applications. So we should have insight in different ways on how to solve your splice problem, if you will. We back that obviously with some particular programs that we offer here at Adhesives Research, as far as, technical, like I said, sampling, as well as inventory. So I don't really know what that's particularly geared towards, but if you'd like to reach out to me afterwards, we can discuss that a little bit more in depth and kind of more honed in on what that question really is asking. Bonnie, I don't know, you have a little bit more experience here with the company. Maybe you can answer that a little bit additionally.
Yeah, I would like to add to that, Nick, and the fact that, yes, some of our customers and new prospects are opening back up to visitation. And yes, we can assist on the equipment, on the different shifts with the operators to make sure they are using the tape properly, application, over any questions they may have, and change is more successful really when all shifts are involved. But in the virtual world that we live in today, some of the customers and prospects aren't allowing visitors at this time. So we've actually done some video conferencing for troubleshooting. We've also done some training via video. I've also went to some plants and we've actually shot some training videos so that the operators can view those on their own time, or maybe in a training session that they have. So we can definitely be flexible. On site is obviously ideal to be in front of the operators and work with the products. But if not, virtually, there are a lot of different ways we can assist as well.
Nice. Thank you for adding that. We actually did just have one additional question come in while you were speaking, Bonnie. So this one is, this is a customer that works within extruding. So we have an extruding operation, and we would like to know if you offer any additional products that can be useful in our production process. Sorry, guys. We have an extruding operation. We'd like to know if you offer any other products that would be useful in our production process. So yes, we do. The products that we've all described today would be used in those processes for either roll-to-roll splicing or even coarse starting. One additional product to that I'd kind of like to highlight are our Teflon products. These are primarily used for cylinder or roller wrapping, to where it can handle that excess poly that's being extruded onto the web. I know that can often cause web breaks and bring down the machine, as well as a lot of additional cleaning. So with that said, I would say that our Teflon products are probably going to be an addition to what we've already mentioned to your extruding operation. But again, like I said with the last question, if I didn't answer that fully, please reach out after the webinar and I can kind of walk through that with you. With that said, that does bring us to the end of the questions today. I'd like to actually take the time to thank all the attendees that joined today on behalf of Bonnie and myself, as well as all of Adhesives Research. We do thank you for taking the time to join this webinar, and I hope you guys did find this informative for your processes and applications. If you have any questions, please email us afterwards and we'll respond as soon as possible. That concludes our webinar, guys. Have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks.